Juan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. It is March 5, 2021, everyone. I hope that this is a happy Friday for you. It is Friday. So excited to be pulling into the weekend. Been a long week, fruitful and prosperous, up into the wire. Just actually finished our board meeting for Gather Together, Go Together. Lots of new initiatives and things that we have going on. New opportunities are developing. So we're excited about that. So tonight, in about 10 minutes, at the bottom of the hour, 6:30, I have a special guest, Amy Ray, coming to us, which would be a fantastic conversation. Amy is an advocate of physical fitness. Amy was one of my students at Olympic College several years ago, so very promising student. Can't wait to hear what she's up to. We're going to talk about current issues and just learn about being physically fit and healthy. And I think it's really important to have this conversation right now, especially in light of social distancing and what's going on. You know, you heard me talk about purchasing a treadmill and trying to make sure that I am getting some exercise in. And it's so tremendously important. And, you know, what's so funny, oh, hey, how you doing, Tiffany? So you'll be back to watch. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Please come over to my YouTube channel, though. This is only going to be up here for a short time, and then it's going to be on live. So if you go over to YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. But we are trying to drive the traffic over there so that we can build our subscription base there. Because everything that we do helps to serve the mission for G2, which, of course, is self-sufficiency for all Kitsap County residents and beyond. And so that's really important. But something really funny is, so when I got the treadmill in, you know, Layla, you know, she sees the treadmill. Oh, Daddy, I got to get on it. Like, well, you're going to have to put on some shoes first off. You know, can I get on it? So the last time we had a treadmill, she was too small to get on it, right? And so she gets on this treadmill, and she's just having so much fun on it. So she gets off, and her legs are wobbly, and she's like, oh, it still feels like I'm on this treadmill. And so all she wants to do is walk on the treadmill. So we ate dinner, and then we're just kind of hanging out for a little bit. And she's like, oh, I want to get back on the treadmill. She jumps on, and she walks a mile, you know, and it's like, you know what, sweetie? And she's, you know, looking at the numbers and watching it, and she's just so excited. And it's like, you know what? She's pent up too, so getting some physical exercise is great. You know, since then, she started going back to gymnastics on Thursdays, so she has that outlet, but that's really important. So it's like something else. Like, I don't think when I was 9, I would have thought getting on the treadmill was the exciting thing to do. But she definitely cracks me up. And she wants to do what Daddy does. So, you know, she tries to lift my weights, and she has her own weights here that she can lift with me if she wants. And so she just thinks it's so fun. So I definitely encourage her to do those things. But, yeah, the treadmill was just something else for her. Just she's so funny. She's such a ham. Anyhow, do make sure that you keep an eye on the weather. It looks like it's going to be dipping into freezing temperatures here come next week. And so I expect that G2 may be transporting people to the emergency shelter as the weather dips. So for those of you out there, please get that information out in the community so people are prepared for sure. But like I was saying, please come on over to YouTube and check us out over there. As I said, we are trying to get folks to migrate over to YouTube because we can do so many more things over to YouTube. So, yes. And it's one of the reasons why I like to go on a little early, make sure all the bugs are working out and everything is set. So So far, so good. We're going to say no whammies, no whammies, no whammies for any of you old enough to watch that show. We want no whammies indeed, so we'll see. Comcast is coming out tomorrow at 9 a.m., and so we'll see if they can actually resolve my issues. I do hope that they can, because it's, it's frustrating when you've done everything you can and you find out that nothing else is working. But we still have so many interviews to go. Yesterday we had Eric Farmer, and he talked about Quincy Square. He talked about his business endeavors and his entrepreneurship. Again, so many people in this county doing a lot of great things. And so, I definitely encourage you to make connections, get to know some other people, build your circle of influence, and build your circle of support. And I'm so pleasantly surprised at all the collaboration that people have wanted to do, just having these conversations. And it's like, man, these folks have been here this whole time. And if I had these conversations, we could have collaborated earlier. So, but now is the time. You just have to take advantage of what is when it is. That's really the most important thing. So that is what we are going to do. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and get Amy in on the interview here in about 4 minutes. Just want to give a chance for people to come on into the live. So we have that. So that'll be fantastic. I'm reading some texts that are coming in. So, folks kind of reach out in all different places. So I'm letting some folks know to go on over to YouTube and watch there. All right. And I know dead air is the worst thing, but sometimes when you type, you don't talk, so it's really kind of weird. Please post before I shut down. So what will happen tonight is, I should just put a qualifier down there. I will be on later on this evening also, because I haven't had a chance to have the discussion that I wanted to have with everyone because of this issue with Comcast. And I think it's really important, and I want it to get out sooner than later, because I'm really passionate about it and frustrated about it at the same time. So I'm actually hoping to have a rather important opportunistic meeting at 8:30. So once this podcast is over, I'll go immediately into another meeting, and then I'll jump back online after. So, that is what I'm going to do. As you can see, I have the podcast over there to link you over to YouTube. So please go ahead and do that. Okay. And I definitely would appreciate that. And then, Rob, if you wouldn't mind, if there is a way, I should be able to do it this way. Let me do it like this. I'm just going to copy and put it over there. And just FYI, I didn't see a way to do it the other way like everyone was discussing previously. So, I may not have seen it, but I didn't see it. So could be user error. What is it? ID10T error. So that might have been what was happening for sure. All right. Live, right? If I can spell right now correctly. Bam. All right, perfect. So I'm just posting that, and then we'll go ahead and get Amy in the room, and we will go ahead and get going. Yeah, man, I'm so excited. All right. Let's go ahead and get her on in. So she'll set up her video and her phone. All right, there she goes. Do we have volume, Miss Amy? Can you hear me?
Oh, do I have to turn myself up?
Oh, nope, you're good. I can hear you. How you doing?
Okay. I'm good. I'm so nervous.
Don't be nervous. Just pretend the camera's not even on.
Okay.
It's all good. Just relax. You know what helps? If you get a nice cup of hot tea. Earl
Oh,
Grey
yeah,
is
I
my
would
favorite.
spill that.
You would spill it?
I would spill that.
Well, see, then you get the non-spill mug. Because I am afraid of spilling around all of this. So I'm like, okay, if I only put this much in there and I keep it over here, I should be okay. Now watch me knock it over. Mm. Yes, I'm I'm a huge coffee drinker. If you remember, back in the college days, and so it's bad for you, all the caffeine. But tea has caffeine in it too. Um,
Right.
but man, it really tastes good. And then I use stevia to sweeten it, and so I'm not using any sugar. So it's actually pretty
I use
good.
that too.
Oh, you use stevia? Now, do you use the fresh stevia?
Do I love coffee?
You're fine. Just relax,
Okay.
ride the wave, ride the
I'm
wave.
trying.
You know how many of these I've done already?
But I've never done any. I'm like red and too hot. I haven't seen you in years, so.
Do I look any different?
Well, I was gonna compliment the facial hair. I don't think you had that when I saw you, and I like it.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. It's just I think the top of my head is cut off. Can you see the top of my head?
I can see the top of your head, and it looks. Are you using lavender headphones?
No, they're gray. They
They
look
look
lavender?
purple.
They look purple? I
Yeah.
think it's just the way that the light is bouncing off. So like there's a bunch of lights in here and a bunch of monitors. Like it's crazy. So I went pretty crazy. Like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna go all the way. So that's kind of how it went. Well, so why don't we get into it? Tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll make it real easy.
Wait, you didn't tell me to prepare. Look, I have notes. You didn't tell me to prepare for that question. But I haven't really talked to you, so I don't even know if you know that I did move to Oregon since
Oh,
I was, yeah.
no, I didn't.
So I'm living in Hillsboro, and I am the operations manager at LA Fitness.
What?
So yeah, it's my first like employment job, and I love it.
Awesome,
And I love
awesome.
it here, except the weather. I got my headphones. The weather. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
It's still really gloomy, and I'm excited for when it actually is sunny, so I can actually see what it looks like. So,
Well, how long have you been in Oregon?
but, I moved here in August,
Oh,
so not that long.
so not even 6 months really. Well,
Right.
it's the sister city, so it's supposed to be the same or the
Yeah.
sister state. So just like
Is it?
Washington.
Oh yeah, Oregon. I like Oregon better though.
Really?
I feel
Why?
bad saying that. It's I so I've been trying to be objective and figure out if it's because it's new, but it is seriously so beautiful. Like when you imagine the prettiest parts of Washington, like
Mm-hmm.
the most groomed, and I went down a road yesterday to go to the mall, and I accidentally took the back road instead of the highway, and the entire way looked like a puzzle,
Oh,
like a
really?
Thomas Kincaid picture. It was like I can't even explain. My daughter was laughing at me the whole time because I couldn't even absorb how pretty the entire road was. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And she's like,
So,
"Mom, you're tripping."
yeah.
So what? How did you get the job down there? How did you end up going to Oregon? Like, how does that
I
happen?
moved for a boy.
Uh-oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We won't talk about that.
Well, is it serious? Yeah, I hope it's serious if you
Of course.
moved.
Of course.
Good,
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, and then you already got a job down there, so that's fantastic. So what made you want to get into fitness?
I've been an athlete since I was 4 years old. I don't know if you knew that either. So I was on a swim team when I was 4, and then I swam competitively all year round, all the way up. I took a little bit of a break in elementary school, or maybe middle school, so that I could try volleyball and cheerleading and do the things that regular kids did. And then I went back my senior year of high school and was the captain my senior year. And then I sort of just I think at that point, that was the first time I really wanted to be in fitness. And I started studying for the personal trainer exam sometime around that time, but I just never finished it
Mm-hmm.
because I was a wild kid and wanted to do other stuff too. So I think I can't remember a time in my life, honestly, that I haven't been active and either an athlete competitively or just wanting to learn more about being healthier.
Right. Okay. So what does it take to become a personal trainer? I mean, you had to go through a certification. Do you have to study? Do you have to like physically qualify? Like, what is that like?
So, in reality, you can pay some places just a few $100s to take a test and get a certification.
Oh, wow.
So, from that point, you can choose to either go work for a gym and do things the way that they ask you to do it, or you can do it on your own. If you do it on your own, you do have to get a business license and carry your own insurance, which isn't that difficult. The hardest part of doing it on your own would be getting clients
Mm,
and figuring out where they can work out. Because if you don't own a gym, most gyms want you to use their employees.
right.
So they don't want you to come in and train their members.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets a little complicated. It's not so like how do you get into it? You can get your certification very easily, but how to actually make a living in the fitness industry, it's a whole nother story.
So were you doing it where you had your own clients and your own business, or were you always tied to a gym?
So that's what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I never got the chance because COVID hit and life circumstances happened. And I honestly, I've had my certificate for a year and a half now, and I've filled in at people's gyms that I know of and taught classes for them, but I haven't had the chance to really train my own clients, which is why I have the job that I have now. So the position that I have right now, I feel like I'm still serving the community and helping people in the fitness industry because I'm making the gym a happy place and a clean place and keeping it open and running. And I'm serving just from a different angle at this point. But I also have health insurance and full time income to support my daughter.
Nice.
So,
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about your mom. How's mama doing? She's retired now,
oh,
right?
she's well. She is retired. I don't see her very much because I'm in Oregon. But
Mm-hmm.
last I talked to her, she was all right. She was doing okay. I'm sure that she would probably love to get back to the YMCA and start doing her fitness journey, but everything is open and closed and not. I mean, I think everyone's just sort of on pause with their life, waiting for normal to happen again.
Or whatever that's going to be.
Exactly.
Well, let's jump into it because that we'll kind of start ferreting through those things like the vaccine, as we go through the
I'm
questions.
nervous about those. Yeah.
Well, let's start off at the top. So, what does Black History Month mean to you, or just Black history in general?
So this is one of the things that I'm actually really embarrassed because I know that I've had opportunities through the years to learn more about Black history, but I truly, as a child, didn't pay attention in history class. There was something about the knowledge in history that I didn't process very well, and I only remember very small, significant things like Martin Luther King Jr. I remember the things that most people remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm willing to admit that I'm completely ignorant is that I feel like there must be other people that also feel the same way. They just don't know, and I don't know how. I can say I just met someone that was from Libya, and he was identified with the 9/11 and being looked at differently because of those events. And I had a conversation with him that sort of made me look at all different backgrounds just completely differently. I have a lot of empathy for the issues that come up for people of different ethnicities and from different backgrounds. But unfortunately, because there's been one time when I was living in the South where someone was rude to me from my skin color. But honestly, other than that, I feel like I feel ridiculously blessed in a way that I just honestly have never had to deal with feeling like I was judged by anything other than who I was. And I kind of, in a way, I feel guilty for that. But at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't have to feel guilty for it. So I have like, there's a lot, just basically a lot of thoughts swirling around in my head about this topic. And I don't know how to really, I don't know if there's ever going to be a way for me to fully understand what Black History Month means in reality, just because I don't have that perspective. It makes like I literally feel like crying. I wish that I could, but I don't think there's ever a way. No matter how much I talk to people that have had to deal with issues, there's just no way. So I would like to learn more, and I don't even think I know how to really grasp what Black History Month means to the majority of the population. So
Well, I
mean,
think
it's a confusing topic.
well, I think what's awesome is one, your willingness not only to be, vulnerable, with me, but to be vulnerable with everyone,
Right.
that's big. That's really big. And a lot of people, if they don't know something or they don't have an experience, or like you said, you can have some feelings of guilt, then it's like, well, I don't want to share that because I don't want to be judged and I don't want to have those issues. And what's so important is if we're going to move past issues, or not necessarily move past, but if we're going to grow forward, then we have to have the hard discussions and accept people for where they're at, and not criticize or judge people because that just wasn't their experience, right? I grew up how I grew up, and that's what it is. I would like to know more, but I can acknowledge this is where I'm at, and accept me as who I am, and I can try to learn, and that's really it. And I think that's all we can really do. For me, in the podcast a few days ago, I was saying, for the most part, wasn't exposed to a lot of that either. I hated history just like you in school, and even when I did pay attention, as you know from my story, I didn't go to high school, but in my story, it was the same thing, right? Martin Luther King, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks, just all the staples. So not really getting into anything really deep about the achievements and the impact and stuff like that, because it's here and it's gone, and what's the big deal? So being Black doesn't make you an expert on Black history. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're learning together. So I think that's the powerful thing, and folks have to give each other grace in order to accept and grow. You know what I mean?
100% agree.
So, thank you for that. That's really awesome. We are watching The Conduit. I'm Arwan Cameron. Our guest today is Amy Ray. She is what is your title exactly? You're a physical fitness instructor? Certified trainer?
I'm actually just the operations manager at the gym, but I am a certified personal trainer.
Well, please do not discount yourself, right? Like, I'm just an operations manager. Like, no, I'm the operations manager and I'm certified. What?
Well, I wear the jacket anyway.
See, and I wear a jacket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, be proud of your accomplishments. You should not be ashamed of what you've achieved and the things that you've done. Absolutely. No one should have that expectation for you to be that way. As I said before, we are live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. Why? Because we can. We can do whatever we want, right?
I didn't even know we were live on Facebook. Now
Yeah. We are live. So I am going to cut the feed on Facebook because I want you guys to come over to YouTube. And if I keep broadcasting live on Facebook, you'll never migrate over there. So again, the link is in the chat. Come over and follow us over there. I see a few people are already there and a few people are already on Facebook. So come on over there as we go ahead and continue with our interview. So, it's just the things you got to do as you grow, right?
I didn't even know. So
I shouldn't have said anything. I was like, now I'm really nervous.
I'm glad you didn't tell me.
Like, oh my God, what's happening right now? So A big issue here, and you've been in Oregon for a few months. I don't know if you see anything as far as homelessness and what's going on there, but what's your thoughts on homelessness? You know that we have an issue here in Kitsap County and Bremerton and nationwide, but what are your thoughts on homelessness?
Actually, driving through Portland is the worst situation I've ever seen. I mean,
What?
I'm not extremely cultured, but I have been to Seattle multiple times. I've seen areas of Seattle that looked just completely taken over. But Portland right now, and I've been told that Portland is worse now than it was, but it is a bad situation down there. I mean,
What do
my
you see?
thoughts on, huh?
What do you see down there?
I mean, there are people, it's hard to explain because I feel like when I say there's people all over, that's it's so overused to just say there's people all over the place, but it truthfully, they are all over. Every single little spot I mean, there are camps by the freeway, in between roads, underneath overpasses everywhere. There are entire buildings that are boarded up because, I mean, there were the riots down there at the same time. I think when we first moved here, they were still going on. And anytime I go, I try not to go very often because it is just, there are so many homeless people there right now.
Wow.
And I'm not entirely sure why there are so many right now. To be honest, I don't know if it's worse than it was last year at this time.
Can you see them? Are there like children and women, and are they young, old? Are you able to see?
To be honest, the only ones I've ever seen were, I would say, middle-aged men.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe have seen one woman, but they're mostly middle-aged men. So
Wow.
I hadn't actually thought about that. But I know that we do have, so the person that had my job before me actually left my position to go and help run the homeless shelter in the county.
Oh, awesome.
So I know for a fact that we have in Hillsborough, of course. I'm talking more Portland just because it's so prevalent in Portland right now that you cannot go anywhere in Portland without seeing a massive amount of tents and tarps and all kinds of things all over the place.
Wow.
It's the first time I've ever driven. I just drove to someone's house and there was probably 6 cars on the way that were completely abandoned, trashed, and partially burned, filled with garbage. Just like I've never experienced just seeing so much. I don't know what to call it, but I mean, you can tell when there was a camp there. Mm-hmm. Because they just leave everything there, and I don't know. And then I sort of wonder, like, what happened to them? Did they just leave all of their stuff? I don't know. It stirs up a lot of different thoughts and feelings.
Well, a lot of times what happens is, the police are called, and whether they have permission to be there or not, it's usually temporary, and then they make them move. And so then they're uprooted from where they're at. Mm-hmm. And so they're just constantly being moved and shifted around. That's really scary when you think about it. The way you're describing it, it sounds like it's worse than Seattle.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Worse than I've ever seen in Seattle.
Wow. And what's really concerning about that is just thinking about the issues is one, Kitsap County has a homelessness problem here, right? Obviously not to those levels, but we're also a smaller county here. Seattle has its issues. You're talking about how bad Portland is, right? That's not a state. That's just a city. Right. And, we talk about, we've got COVID going on right now. We have businesses being closed. We have, people who have lost their businesses. They try to keep it open. They're laying people off. They're taking out loans. They're going through their savings until they finally have to close. People losing their jobs, people being evicted. Once the moratorium on eviction is over, more people are going to be evicted, right? And then where are they going to rent? If they weren't able to pay the rent in the place that they were in, and their rental history is now shot, their credit is shot, right? They may or may not be working. Who's going to rent to them? So there's going to be even more homelessness on the other end. And I mean, if you're saying it's that bad now, I mean, one person is too many, as they always say, that kind of cliche type saying. But
Right.
wow, wow.
But I mean, on the same token, if you address the mental health issues that come from all of the things that you said, on top of addressing people that are just falling apart emotionally and they don't even know where to start, there's so much on top of them. As I mean, me personally, yeah, I did get unemployment for a portion of the time, but I also accrued as much debt on top of, and I was lucky enough to come into the beginning of this pandemic with minimal debt, but I now have a credit card that equals my car payment, and I drive a BMW. It's my first fancy car I ever had. So I literally have a credit card debt that equals my BMW. So, I mean, I'm staying positive about it. There's literally nothing I can do about it. It's nothing that I did wrong. It's just trying to survive right now is extremely hard.
Yeah, it is. And, I'm glad you're blessed. You've got your position and you're helping other people because, that's also a form of therapy too, exercising, eating well. And when we get into that, getting your BMI to a good spot, getting that fat away from your belly and all that good stuff is going to be really important as you try to fight off viruses and everything else. I mean, the game right now is to stay as healthy as possible, not get sick if you can, avoid it. You got to do everything you can and be empowered. So, well, absolutely. Again, this is the Conduit. We've got Amy Ray. We got a fascinating conversation. Really sad to hear what's going on in Portland. At some point, I might even be interested if you take pictures and just send them to me because I think it's important, for folks to see. One of the things that I was, having conversations with people about is when COVID was kind of going on here in Bremerton in the summertime. I don't know if you saw it, but it really didn't seem to affect most people here, right? Because the shipyard is a big employer. So, you have folks working and you have people going out on their boats. I saw a lot of new car purchases. I saw new boat purchases, right? So people seem to be thriving. And in other places in the country, it was like horrible, right? And then you're saying, hey, I'm in Portland and it's like crazy down here. It's like, like some kind of a disaster movie. And we still aren't experiencing it to those levels. So I think it's important for people to see, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're humans and they're also our, they're our neighbors, and U.S. citizens. So,
one thing that bothers me about homelessness in general, I feel like the majority of homeless people, whether they had something going into being homeless or they have something to deal with now, I feel like the mental health aspect of it is a huge determining factor, not determining factor, but a contributing factor. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the mental health professionals can't keep up. Like there's not enough support available to help people. And I feel like almost, and I've asked this question I remember asking my grandma when I was really small, and she said something to me about, I think it was Jimmy Carter that did away with the psychiatric hospitals. I kind of wish that there was a way for me to just implement having psychiatric hospitals, like many, many more full-time live-in psychiatric places for people to go and get long-term care. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like a lot of the homeless people, they don't have anywhere to go because they have these issues that they're barriers that they can't work through on their own.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. What's interesting too is if you think about it, we're having this conversation, and with all the interviews I've done, I actually didn't really consider thinking about my worst days or going through the passing of my father or my brother, having to deal with that, but you're homeless on top of it. Like, if you didn't have mental health issues, you got them now. You know what I mean? Right. And so I don't know if folks always kind of consider and look at it like that. Like, think about the hardest times of your life and then think about being homeless on top of it, and if you have kids or you're responsible for your significant other and children, and you're not able to provide for them at that time, how damaging that is to your psyche and everything else, your mental well-being. So
That will make you crazy just by itself. Like if you just can't feed your child, or that alone would throw me into a downward spiral.
mhm. Yeah, I think that's really important. I'm glad you brought that up because it's a perspective that hasn't been brought up yet, and I've done like 15 of these. So thank you for that. I love talking to people. It's great. You know,
It is.
it's fantastic. So what do you think about $15 minimum wage? There's a push right now from the Democratic Party to push for $15 minimum wage. If it were to go through, wouldn't get phased in until 2025. The people that oppose it say it's going to destroy small businesses, mom and pops. There's also studies that show the actual minimum wage should be somewhere around $28 an hour in order for people to actually have a livable wage. And so the federal minimum wage is 7.25, and it hasn't been raised in like 15 years or however long. It's been a long time. But what are your thoughts on $15 an hour? Something that we should do, not do, something different?
So I feel like, again, my perspective is only coming from what the experience that I've had, and that's the only thing I have to pull from. And it's very surfacey. I don't know what other word to use, but I feel like I'm not getting deep down into the meat of what the issue is. But in general, when I see this happening, and I've been around long enough to see, my first job, I was making $5 something an hour, and that was minimum wage. So from then till now, it just feels like, on the surface, it feels like people, when they want to raise the minimum wage, in a way, they want to keep the job that they have but make more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's the wrong way to go about making more money. There's a ton of things wrong with the education system, in my opinion, as far as the accessibility of knowledge. And I'm sure with what I experienced with you in college, you are fully aware of just how much of an almost full-time job it is to apply for grants, to go to college, to get just an associate degree. It's difficult. There needs to be other steps before we can change. You can't change it all in one day, but I feel like we're chasing the wrong thing. I feel like raising the minimum wage is because people want to just make more money the easy way, rather than, and again, I know this isn't all of the issue, but I think we just need to make knowledge more accessible and give people better ways to maybe get their college degree, or simply teach more important knowledge in high school.
Ooh, I agree with you there for sure. Absolutely.
I just don't see how continuing to raise the minimum wage, it hasn't worked in the past. It's not, and as far as I can see, it's not repairing anything to keep raising minimum wage. And I feel like just wasting time focusing on that isn't fixing the issues.
So let me kind of build on your thought about access to education. What I thought would be important, and I think I've said, when you were in my class, education is power, but only if you use it, right? There's a lot of educated people that don't use their education, right? Which is a travesty. But what would you think if college was made free for everyone, but they had to serve our military for 2 to 4 years?
I've recently had a conversation with someone about the military being mandatory. I feel like those are almost two different topics, but I think that would be a good starting place for making a change. I think that making the military mandatory, there's bad sides to it, but I feel like it would almost instill at least a better sense of what hard work feels like, and the fact that hard work is not going to kill you. Like getting sweaty and putting in the actual work that makes your muscles sore at the end of the day. And it's going to make those people stronger people. It's going to give them better tools and just a better understanding of what we should feel like at the end of the day. There's a reason we have weekends. We should feel exhausted. I mean, if you're putting in the effort, you should feel like you've been working hard. I don't think that people should just get paid more to do the same thing. I don't know. I just don't understand. It seems so simple to me. I don't understand why. But yes, I think that those two things, I never put those together before, but I think that actually would be a really good way, because at first I was going to say, if you make college, say associate degree, more accessible, it's almost going to devalue the associate degree. But if you add the military on top of that, I feel like that would be a good way to balance that out. That's actually a very good idea. I stand behind that.
Well, and it goes beyond, just the physical, right? So in the military, you learn discipline, right? You learn different skills based on, your ASVAB and your rating in which you go into. So you're going to get that experience. You get an opportunity to serve your country, which I think is good and important. And then you also get a chance to mature also, right? I mean, you're coming out of high school, and, maybe right now you don't really know what you want to do, but you're serving your country and you can start to find your way. And even if you're a non-traditional student, like a returning student like me, right? I hurt my back, I'm 24 and I need to go. All service doesn't have to be on front lines, right? I mean, we have so many folks in the military that are storekeeps, personnel, and admin. We have a lot of government workers that are doing admin and helping to support the military. So even if you weren't in good physical shape, you could still serve the military, right? That wouldn't be a reason why you couldn't join for 2 to 4 years. And through that time, you probably find what it is that you want to do. Oftentimes folks can cross-rate, so maybe you start off as something else, and while you're in, you really find out what your interests are, and you start working toward that, and then you're also working on your degree. When you get out, you're not at entry level, you're more mid-level, right? So now you've got skills, you've got, a nice resume. You might decide that the military is for you and you stay in. I just think that it would solve a lot of issues, and it would build those skills and everything else, and would build the country also.
Absolutely. I'm on board. I hadn't thought of that before.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast, and I called it The Conduit, was because information can flow both ways, right? So as you talk to me and you share your perspective, which is unique to you, then that makes me think of some things, and vice versa, right? You're like, well, I didn't think of that. I think that's actually a good idea. And then secondarily, we have the mainstream media, we have social media as it is, and they push out, their agendaed topics and their viewpoints, right? But that is for the interest that they have, right? So the regular folks like you and I, it's not really representative, maybe in general, but,
Right.
What are our ideas? What do we think? And I think there's a lot of solutions that can be ferreted out from talking to regular folks, right? People that are living the life, that are in there and have different perspectives.
Definitely.
You think so?
Yeah. I'm just excited to chat with you, because I don't think we've ever gotten to sit down one-on-one. We were always either in class, or you always had like a group of your people around you. And
yeah, well, it's so funny, teaching in all the different disciplines that I did. There were days when I was working 16-hour days. So, when I did the class that was from 9 to 3, the 2 days a week, I would teach math that it started at 5:15 or 5:30 and went to 7:15 at night. So I'm literally on campus teaching from 9 a.m. to 7:15 p.m. Still have to go home, grade assignments, lesson plan, respond to emails. I mean, I was killing myself, Yeah, it was crazy.
That's too much.
Yeah. And so, notoriously I was always late to class, but, I'm moving to another class to teach, a different subject. And so I would do advising on my walk, so right. Just what
that makes sense.
It was what it was, and I loved it, because my experience, I went to OC and I didn't have that experience when I was there. And so I wanted the students that I taught to have a different experience. I was just really disenfranchised when I was there, wanted to get in and get out, didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't trust anyone. And I just didn't want to be that, So I wanted to
Yeah.
have a different experience. Um, well, let's just kind of go on a segue and just kind of talk about that really quick. You are watching
Okay.
The Conduit with Marwan Cameron. Our guest tonight is Amy Ray, one of my former students at Olympic College. And since we're talking about it, talk about your experience. What was it like for me to be your professor? Was it hard? Was it easy?
So when I came to your class, it was probably one of my top three worst times in my life, and I was struggling really hard. You and Mo, do you remember
Mm-hmm.
Maureen? So the two of you really inspired me, and this is when I start crying. But I feel like the work that you gave us, and you really, let me think. You gave us things to think about. You didn't tell us what to think necessarily, and you gave us tools to learn, not just saying this is what you need to know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I appreciated you so much, because I don't respond well to people that just tell me this is how it should be, or this is, take this math class because it'll teach you how to add. I want to know why I need to know that. And you were there to answer those questions. And it gave me, I highly doubt that you understand how long of my life. I don't remember even at this moment. It feels like it was so long ago, but you still come up in my mind regularly. The things that you and Mo were the two that really stuck in my mind, because you guys, it felt like you were there because you wanted to be there, because you wanted to help us become better people, not just to teach a class and get a paycheck, which is how I feel like most teachers. I actually just had a conversation about teachers in general with someone at work the other day. That a teacher can literally crush a human being in one short sentence,
Mm.
or they can encourage them to keep going, or just keep learning, keep trying. I mean, there's so many ways you can inspire someone, but a teacher can so easily, they're in that position where they can just crush someone. And I mean, I've had those experiences and I've been lucky enough to dig my way out of them, but there are so many times that you guys could just say one thing and we will lose all desire to learn either on that topic or even maybe quit college, you know? And you inspired me to keep pushing and keep trying to just be a better person in general, which to me is way more important. I don't even use my associate degree, but I use the knowledge that you gave me on a daily basis and the courage that you gave me. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's powerful. Thank you. Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
And we don't often get feedback from our students later on
Oh,
in
yeah.
life, because you're teaching folks, they kind of come through, it's the machine, right? You come into class, you maybe take one, you take two, depending on what your discipline is, and off you go to what's next, and we don't always hear back. So
Right.
no, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And that is what I tried to do. um, Being a non-traditional student, and I've told my story in class, but just for the audience, um, I know how I felt, in high school, I went to ninth grade, but, um, in middle school and grade school, and then coming back to college and just kind of feeling like a number, people don't care. It doesn't matter whether you pass or you don't. There's so many students. It's highly competitive, this, that, and the other. And I didn't want to be that person. And it's so high stakes for people, especially in the classes um, that I was teaching in. And, folks have children and they're trying to figure it out. Like you said, it's one of your, three toughest times in your life, which I didn't know that.
Mm.
Um, and it's so high
Well, I was going
stakes.
through a divorce.
Oh,
Did
yes.
you? I was going through a divorce, and I had moved out of my husband's house, and my brother had his motorcycle accident and almost passed away. So those two things alone were just, it was so heavy. That's what made it so hard.
I remember that you were going through a divorce then, but not with your brother. Yeah, that's tough. And just any of those things can change your trajectory, right? Like I can't do school right now. I'm just going to go to work. You taking hit after hit. Anything could have taken you out. You could have, your attitude could have been different, right? Just so many different things. So, that for me, it was important to try to make a positive impact in people's lives. So I'm glad I was able to do that. So thank you for that.
And the club.
And the club. Yep, absolutely.
I think that was one of the most fun parts of college for me. I forget about it, and every once in a while when I remember, it makes me smile every time I think about it. It was just really fun.
Well, what's interesting is, steps to success. To me, what I saw, Amy, was you had programs for Running Start students, right? So not only did they get paid, but they had an office, they had support. They're kids, so of course they need the support. Veterans had, their own building where they had support, but non-traditional students didn't. And so there was funding, right? There was money for non-traditional students, but there wasn't that support. And so people are sitting in a class and kids are thinking about, hey, we're going to a rave, we're going to a party. And non-traditional students are like, well, I got to take care of my kid. I got to make sure school is right. I've got other things to be concerned about, right? It's like, can I get toilet paper and food this week? And they're like, Mom, I want the car. It's just different, And so I wanted to create a space for people to be on campus and exist and kind of create synergies and learn how to work together. And especially folks, everyone didn't have a car, right? So they might be on public transportation or their vehicle would break down a lot. In classes, you would see students that had a lot of absenteeism, food insecurity, and all that on top of trying to learn. And you need this so that you can get a job to take care of yourself and your family. That's high stakes, right? Exactly. Oh, and I got test anxiety on top of it. And I didn't have a good experience in school when I was in school. So all of these factors. So yeah, I would say definitely Mo for sure has that same type attitude. And so what I've done with Steps to Success is said, okay, well, while I'm doing this program, I had a family member that was sleeping in her car outside the old Taco Bell. And so even though I've got this great program at the college, I couldn't even serve my own family member, right? She would have to go to college and go through my program in order for me to help her. So, gather together, grow together is just, Steps to Success on steroids. So, we're a 501, C3 nonprofit, and now we're able to, feed food insecure folks, provide transportation. And you talk about mental health. We actually have a contract with Kids at Mental Health. So we get people to their mental health appointments.
That's important.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? And so you might want to get help, but if you're not feeling really kind of up to it and you don't really want to go, or you don't make that effort, then not having transportation or having to get on a bus, it's like, I gotta get on the bus to go to my mental health appointment. Nah, I won't.
But honestly, if you think about it, one of my major barriers is mental health is anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And the anxiety that I feel when I feel like I need to call the doctors and I have to listen to a 5-minute voicemail message just to press 1 to wait on hold. That entire process alone, I can't even imagine if I had to get on a bus while I'm having, I don't know that I could honestly do that. So that is huge that you guys help them get there. That is very, I'm sure, the only thing that's keeping them going sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And just serving people with dignity. So before COVID, we would do a hot dinner service on Sundays. So our cook at the time had a partnership with the Suquamish tribe. So we'd go up there and get these big, huge salmons. And he would, fillet them out, smoke them, or brine them and smoke them. Took all day to smoke this salmon. And our food insecure, our homeless population could sit down on real plates, real silverware, and have a smoked salmon dinner, like a $40 dinner for free. Yeah. And we would put on music and they could sit there for 2 hours. And, on Sundays, that's what they would have. And so,
Oh,
just try to service with dignity, because you're so used to eating out of the, disposable cartons and, just
right.
kind of serviceable food. And you're grateful to have something to eat. But, and my philosophy is if it's not something I would eat or serve to my daughter, then it's not good enough for people that I'm trying to, provide service to. So that's our attitude, and that's what we do. And then we have computer literacy programs, and then we also have our job readiness program. So, that's G2, and so now we can help a lot more people. And for us, kind of like steps to success, it's about people helping themselves to help others at the same time, right? And so a lot of people that are with us, they're working on themselves, but there's something that you get when you're able to help somebody else. It's really empowering.
Absolutely.
And so we try to create a space for that. So that's what we're doing, and
Good job.
good students like you, help to motivate me to continue on and say, you know what, yeah, I should do this and I can do this, and this is where we're at. And we're having we had our third birthday on February 8th. So we're going into year 4,
Congratulations.
Yeah. So in our
That's
building,
amazing.
yeah, if our building is downtown. So if you're ever back in town, you got to come see us.
I will.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump back into our interview. This is the Conduit with Marwan Cameron. Amy Ray is our guest today, and we're talking about all kinds of different things. And now we've got to talk about the the vaccine. So the vaccine is out there. We've got 2 different vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson 1 dose is now hitting the streets. We know we have the original virus. Then we had the 3 mutated versions that came outside the country. Then now there's 7 mutations here inside the country. And then on top of that, they're saying like there's a new strain in New York and a new strain in California. So what are your thoughts on the vaccine? Is it something that you're going to take when you have an opportunity to take it? You feel apprehensive about it? What are your thoughts?
So I do definitely feel apprehensive about it. Of course, I can't imagine just feeling perfectly okay with someone injecting anything into my body, to be honest. But it my apprehension grew tenfold yesterday.
Mm.
My coworker was telling me that he got a message. I can't remember where he said, whether it was an email or Instagram or on some platform, that essentially offered him compensation for reviewing the vaccine. And it said he did not have to ever take it. All he had to do was just say that it was a great vaccine.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that, I don't even understand. I don't even know what to do with that, except for the fact that obviously that's unethical. But
Mm-hmm.
how many people are actually going through with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, folks are desperate, right? They're hoping to get the stimulus, and they've been waiting months for that, and unemployment and everything else. So, yeah, you want to give me $100 to say the vaccine was great? There you go. Thank
right?
you. That's
Yeah.
scary.
So it is scary, and I've had conversations with people that know people personally that have gotten the vaccine, and the first shot they said they didn't feel anything. The second one, kind of like a low grade flu kind of symptoms for just maybe a day or two, and then they were okay. So I tend to think that it's safe for the most part, but then also I worry about long term. Sometimes you hear that you see, like, what are they called? You'll see the things for the class action lawsuits
Mm-hmm.
for things that came out 10 years ago, and people are having these terrible issues. So, of course, and me having daughters as well, those things scare me. They still want to have babies later in their life, and I don't know if that's going to affect them. So, of course, there's all kinds of reservations that I have. So, I also don't want any of my opinion to affect anyone else's. If anyone else feels like they're good and they want to take this vaccine and they have no reservations, I don't want my thoughts to pour out onto them at the same time, because this is my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm most definitely taking it moment by moment with that. I don't know what I would say if someone offered it to me today. I don't know if I would take it, so I'm just gonna have to wait and see what I feel like the day that someone offers it to me.
Gotcha. Well, the good thing is that you're young and you're really healthy, right? So that the odds of,
Hopefully.
even if you got it, you wouldn't, you'd be okay. So that's
Sure.
good news. We definitely agree there. My organization, because we're essential, have been given the opportunity to get the vaccine, and pretty much we're unanimous. We're kind of in a wait and see approach. Some of us
Mm.
are even more apprehensive and like no. Others are like, yeah, let's just let some more time go past. That's kind of the camp
Right.
that I'm in. One of my board members is in the medical profession, so he's had both shots, and he says he's fine, but he had to do that because he's in the medical field. So
Right.
definitely, I encourage people to do their research. Try to cut through the noise. Don't just listen to what the mainstream media has to say, but get in there and go and look at journals, and maybe go to the CDC and read information there, and then make an informed decision. You know what I mean? Either way.
That's the thing, though. Where do they tell us how we do our own research? Because I feel like most people, what do? They go to Google,
Mm-hmm.
and what information pops up on Google? Whoever paid the most to get, you know what I mean? So that's something I also don't know is where the credible sources. Of course, I would love to. Doesn't everyone want to go read a medical journal? Where do I get that? Where do I even begin?
Well, I would say is go to the CDC, which I believe is cdc.gov, right? So the Centers of
Mm-hmm.
Disease Control. That's not going to be influenced by Google ads and things like that.
Right.
That's where I would start. Is from
Okay.
straight government information and their actual sites. And so .gov is government. And like .edu is education. So that would be my recommendation to start there. And then I can't remember what it's called, like JAVA, the American Journal of Medicine or something like that. But I'm sure
Okay.
there's links to that. But I would start with government sites first and then do my research. But did your friend actually show you that email or text that came through?
He didn't. I could ask. I could
If
ask
you
him and
could,
see if
and
he could
if he
forward
was
it.
willing, yeah, I would, because that's information that needs to get out there, right? If that's
That's right.
happening, then I think we have a responsibility to share that out there and say, hey, look, this is what's happening. I don't know where this came from, but that's pretty disgusting, behavior for people to do,
Yeah.
and it's dangerous,
Totally.
to have propaganda
Absolutely.
that way, um, and our government just needs to do a better job with being forthcoming. Just tell the truth, be transparent. And if you did that
Right.
from the beginning, then less Americans would be so apprehensive, right? But when you withhold the information, if you straight up lie, that's already going to
Right.
make us not trust you. And then when you're going back and forth, well, we don't know what to believe. So, yeah, we're like, nah, we're good. We're just going to hold off and just wait. So, you know, all right, if enough people take it, then we'll get herd immunity. So then, okay, then that's fine. That's what I'll wait for. You know,
Right.
um, so it's just damaging. Then they've got to do better. So yeah, if you could get that, that would be huge. I will definitely share that out
Okay.
because I think that's really important. But you are definitely not alone. What I wanted
Good
to
to
ask
know.
you is, so based on that, do you believe that we should shut down? Should we stay open? Like, what should we do? Because we still have all these folks that are dying. If you remember when this thing first happened, let's say like 4th of July, right? It got to the point where it was like 1,000 people a day. Remember how they used to have the ticker? It was like this
Mhm.
many people infected, this many people dead. It was just so
Yep.
sensationalized. But 1,000 people a day is a lot of people, right? But then during Christmas and January, the numbers got so high that now 1,000 is nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now people have COVID fatigue, and now that we're going back down to 1,000, it's like, well, it's just 1,000. We need to open everything back up.
Right.
So how do you
Mhm.
feel about should we open, should we close? Because at the same time, businesses are being destroyed day after day, people's livelihoods. The government isn't supplementing people through unemployment and stimulus, which I've never seen a stimulus check,
Mhm.
so don't know what that's like. But
Yeah.
talk about that.
I mean, the government can't keep up,
Mm-hmm.
for one thing. They can't. There's no way. So my gut, like my first reaction is that by keeping everything closed, we're doing more damage. Because if I didn't have someone that I was living with, I would be homeless. I would be struggling for food. I actually got denied for food stamps.
Wow.
I mean, I wasn't making any income. I wasn't getting any unemployment. So I think that aside, also including the mental health aspect of it, my daughter alone, I can't imagine what it would be like being 13 years old and not being able to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
I was the kid. If my mom told me, Amy, you're too sick to go to school, you can't go, I can't let you go, I would cry and beg for hours. I hated missing school. I cannot, I mean, just trying to imagine and prepare myself for what things are going to be like when we do open, when she goes back to school and she has to deal with all of just being exposed to all those germs again. What is that going to do? We're doing so much more damage staying closed. My thought is let the people that are at high risk, they know who they are. We don't need to direct them. They know who they are. Give them their hour or their 2 hours at the grocery store. I like that. I like that. Like our grocery store will say they're closed from, this time to this time to let the elderly and the people that are high risk go shopping. Give them that. Mm-hmm. Continue using the contactless pickup services. Keep all that stuff. I'm not saying we don't need that, but let me live my life. Let me go to the gym and be healthy. Let me go shopping and buy healthy food for my family. Why am I being punished because of this? I feel like everything that I've done to try to make my life good is being constricted. And I know that there's other sides to it, and I don't want to discredit the other perspectives. I actually did lose an uncle to COVID. So
sorry to hear that.
Up until that point, I hadn't known anybody, but he did also have Parkinson's, so there was that underlying health condition. But we knew he had just gotten put into the nursing home. I don't want to sound callous, but there's a certain point with Parkinson's, for example, where you know that they're not going to recover. He tried. He was wealthy. He had the ability to try stem cell research and all those things that you can try when you have money to spend. I don't want to sound callous by any means, but at a certain point, the end is coming, and keeping every American or everybody in the world in their homes and keeping them from living is not going to keep the people with Parkinson's from dying.
Right.
So I don't know. The thing that I wrote down, what did I write down? I wrote down something really good about that. I'm allowed, literally, to get in my car and drive every day. You know how many car accidents happen? I'm allowed to go skydiving. I skydived a couple times before everything shut down. That's dangerous. We could die from that. I'm allowed to literally, does this have to be PG?
No.
I'm allowed to have sex with whoever I want, do whatever I want with my body, and I could have some disease and not tell someone, you know what I mean? Like, I'm allowed to risk all these things. I'm allowed to eat sugar, which is essentially a poison, and the TV markets it to me, which is dangerous and killing hundreds of people a day from obesity and all kinds of other things. Why am I allowed to do that, but I'm not allowed to go to the gym, It makes no sense to me whatsoever, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, when Layla found out that she could go back to school, it was literally like Christmas for her. And so she's sitting here where we do a podcast too. We got the Layla and Daddy podcast that we do. And she's just so excited. She's so pumped. It's like, oh, I'm going back to school and I can't wait. And it was literally like Christmas. And what broke my heart with Layla was, as Christmas was approaching, it's like, well, what do you want for Christmas, sweetie? And she's like, I don't really want anything. I don't really need anything. And it doesn't really seem like Christmas. It's just, she she was just so bummed, it's just like, man, there's nothing I can do, I mean, it is what it is. We're all going through the pandemic together, and the kids are going through it also. But she was super excited to go back. So, she's back now 4 days a week, and it's great. And so I kind of thought, one, I again want to thank you for sharing your perspective, because people do like to sing. And, what I say by sing is they want to shame you, insult you, they have a need to be right, or make you feel guilty, right? And it's like, I'm beyond that, so go ahead and do what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and state my opinion and what I think, because my thoughts are valid, right? And so you can't take that away from me. But it's very hard, especially right now, because, the whole situation has become politicized, right? And so even with the presidential election, you've got friends and family members that are fighting and not talking to each other based on who they're going to vote for, and it's just so ridiculous. And it's like, it's just not that serious. But we got to be able to have these conversations and talk and listen, because that's where the solutions are, right? It's like, okay, so you believe what you believe. You're entitled to believe that. Let's have a conversation. And through that, if we're both listening, maybe I present some information that may change your mind or influence what you think, and maybe not, and vice versa, And so thinking about it, I think we need to talk about it. But then too, I'm a solution-based person. And so what I felt like the government's issue is they're very reactive and not proactive. So in the very beginning, when we didn't know what was going on, okay, shut it down. But you shut it down really hard for a little bit, and then you go ahead and you open back up. But you don't shut it down, open it back up, shut it down, open it back up. It's like, okay, this holiday's coming, it's going to spike, but you're trying to open back up knowing that you're just going to shut it back down. It's like everyone else in the country can see this, but the politicians can't. Like, what are you guys doing? It's so crazy, So,
Crazy.
and to your end about wanting to go to the gym, for me, it's like, look, we say kids need to be in school, right? So why don't we do this? Send the kids to school, especially the young ones, because we know they don't typically, get COVID at those rates. It's really small. And then when they do, they don't typically transmit it and whatnot, right? So it's pretty safe for those kids to be in school. You put them in school, you do the social distancing, you can let them wear their mask, do whatever. You have the teacher in the classroom. If the teacher has comorbidities and they can't be in the class, then you can still Zoom the teacher into the classroom. But the kids are physically there. They still have that interaction, right? And so you still have that subject matter expert. They still get Mrs. Clute, which was my 4th grade teacher. And, so you still get that interaction with their teacher that they love, right? And then if it is in a Zoom, then you just get a paraeducator to come in and who's healthy, that doesn't mind being in there with the kids, and they can do the classroom management. You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
Now everything is protected. The teachers that, feel like they want to come in and teach their kids can. The teachers that want to stay home because they don't feel safe, they could do it by Zoom. The kids don't lose out because they're in school and they're getting instruction from their actual teacher, either on Zoom or face-to-face. And the kids and the parents that don't feel safe, they can still be at home and still interact the class through Zoom, right? To me, it just solves the issue for everyone. But everyone is so concerned on their own interests, no one is thinking about, well, what would work for everyone?
Right.
What do you think about that as a solution?
That sounds like, I honestly had never thought about that, but it sounds like a really good solution to me. When you were talking about it, I was imagining there's a lot of, I don't know what, you're clearly more up to par on your knowledge on who is getting it at what age level, but what about the high school students that want to be teachers? Can they go in and be a TA in that situation? Are they still healthy enough to? Because high school kids, sometimes they love that environment, and the kids would respond really well to a cooler, older kid being in the classroom. And I think that would also be a good option.
Yeah, well, and
add to what you were saying.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of private schools that are still having in class. Like their kids have still been meeting. Now they've got smaller class sizes and more resources and things like that. But yeah, absolutely. So now, like you said, that teacher, it could be a student teacher that is that para, right? So then you wouldn't even have to hire someone else. You have an actual student that is in the front of the class handing out papers, doing whatever needs to be done for the classroom management piece of it, but you're still getting your actual teacher for the class. So
Right.
I just think there's so many different ways that we could do
I
that.
think that you and I need to go in and present our ideas to make this happen. Because my daughter, she's going to go back to school pretty soon, but it's going to be 2 days a week just for, I believe, 4 hours each day. So, I mean, it's a good start, but at the same time, I'm ready. I told her maybe they'll have summer school options. She was mad about that. She doesn't want to do that, but I mean, I'm ready for summer school.
Well, and the kids got to catch up, right? I mean, could you imagine how far behind they are? My cousin, who, it's weird because it's my dad's sister's daughter, but it makes it a cousin, but I'm way older than she is. So it's like, she might even be my aunt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how all that works, but she graduates this year, and, her mom is really vested in her education. So she's done what she could to keep her, on pace and ahead and not have, the education watered down. But so many people have fallen behind and have continued to fall behind. Oh man, we're going to have a generation of kids that they may never ever, catch up, and who knows what life is going to be like for them. What are the jobs that they're going to go into as they leave high school, right? College
now is the time that we need to implement that mandatory military.
Hey,
sure.
see, solutions all around, right? There's no jobs, go in and serve the military, right? Then you get your free college paid for, you're serving the country, and you don't have a bunch of homeless, unemployed youth that are just kind of in the street, just, languishing, and maybe they have to get put out of their house because there's smaller kids in the house, and the single parent or two parents can't take care of the 18 now adult child, in the home. So it's like, you got to go. So yeah, man, it's like a train wreck that we're watching, and the front of the train is already crashed, and we're 25 cars back. Just like, come on, guys, we got to do something. That it's going to hit us here soon.
Terrifying.
It is. It really is. But again, like you said, maybe we should team up and go and have conversations. That's really the purpose of the Conduit, Amy, because no one is talking to regular people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So these ideas don't ever make the light of day. It's just kind of the overarching thoughts of, both sides, retreating to their corner, but there's no real kind of solutions and conversations where people aren't attacking each other for their feelings and their thoughts.
Right. Well, afraid to act on their ideas that seem to be too far-fetched for anyone to implement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the answer is somewhere in the middle, but let's talk about it so we can get there.
Yeah.
But, as I feel, we're not helpless. We do have locus of control. There's things that we cannot, do and can't control, but so many parts of our life we can. And how we attack it is one of those ways. And so for me, that's kind of how I look at life. There's a situation, I can't do anything about this, but I can adjust my attitude, how I'm going to think about it, how I'm going to process it, how I'm going to navigate through it, around it, under it, or, find some kind of an alternative, right? And then I can go and rally my circle to try to figure out solutions. And so that's kind of how I go about operating in my life. I hope other people do the same. Mm-hmm. So we are having a fantastic conversation. My guest tonight is Amy Ray, and we are going deep. And what's great is our conversation is different than other conversations that I've had. So it's just been fantastic. And, more and more things come out. So, for me, it's like, okay, I wonder, when I first put out the Facebook questionnaire saying, hey, would you like to come on and answer these questions? I tell everyone, I thought I'd get like 2 or 3, 4 or 5 folks to respond. I ended up getting like 30, Yay. And so I've already interviewed the commissioner of was he the commissioner of Kitsap County or Bremerton? The mayor was supposed to come on, and so I've been interviewing like crazy, right? So it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I get folks from all walks of life, and they can all share their experiences. So it's been great, that folks do want to talk. And social distancing is so unhealthy for people because we're, creatures are social, right? Human creatures are social. We need to be around each other. We need to interact. And so this is a way where we can do that. And it's great. Like you said, we haven't seen each other in years, so we can sit down and have a conversation and catch up and share experiences. So, I hope it's beneficial to people, because that's really kind of the purpose of it. And that's just what I mean about locus of control. Okay, we need to social distance to stay safe, but that doesn't mean that we need to be isolated. And so this is hopefully a way to, make people feel less isolated, and they can type in the chat. Soon they'll be able to call in and just kind of stay connected that way. So that is the plan.
You're doing a great job. I'm excited.
Well, thank you. Well, let's skip to number 7. How do you define friendship? What makes a good friend to you? What are some qualities that you look for, and how are you a good friend to other people?
So I genuinely try not to define certain things like that, because I feel like if I were to define what friendship meant, there wouldn't be very many people that would fit into that little box that I made. So I really try. I honestly have friends from all ages. I think I was trying to think. I don't even know how old my oldest friend is, but he's in his 80s, and I do stay in contact with him, and I enjoy his conversations. He's a retired psychologist, and he will listen to me and give me his knowledge, and he's there when I need that type of a friend. And I have all the way down to, I honestly consider some of my daughter's friends my friends, because we can hang out together. We can watch silly YouTube videos that people my age would laugh at me for. And, I can hang out with people that are in their 20s and not feel like I'm out of place, because I have things in common with them. So that's the part about me that I can say truthfully. I am grateful that I have that. And I wouldn't ever want to put anybody in a box by saying this is my requirements for being my friend, because I feel like everybody that is my friend, everyone that I cherish enough to call my friend, is someone that I can be there for them in a completely different way. One person to another person, it would be completely different when they say, I need you. So I give them that same respect and just say they are my friend the way that they can be when they can be. Some of my friends have 3 children at home, and they don't have time. They don't have time to have a constant connection with me. And I honestly don't do well having friends that need constant connection, because I'm very into, when I go to work, I don't want friends texting me and I want to get my work done. And then when I get off work, I want to come home and be a mom. And I really don't have time for a lot of what I feel most people define as friends. But I have a lot of friends that are there when I need them, when I need advice, or when I just need to cry about something. That, to me, I guess if I had to explain what being a good friend to me would be, just being there the way that they know how, when they can. They're willing to give me their time. And that's all I ever ask, and that's all I can give someone. Because I can't say I'm here for you always necessarily, because I may have a sick child, or, there's so many things that come in between a daily conversation with someone. So I guess there's no way to put that into a definition, but that's my best way to explain it.
No, that's good. That's really good. Well, building on that, right? You talked about you were married, you're in a relationship now. So when you think of relationships like that, what are some things that you do to have an effective and healthy relationship?
Can I just say relationships in general, not necessarily like a significant
Sure.
other? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I think in relationships, one of the most important things is being willing to see them for who they are, and not the mistakes that they're making, or the mistakes that they've made, or their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, the political views, breaking families apart and whatnot, that's ridiculous. I mean, that is the opposite of what family should be, and those people should seriously be completely ashamed of themselves, because that's not what it means to. So for me, when I'm in a relationship, friendship, or otherwise with someone, I'm giving them, in a way, I guess I'm giving them a piece of me. I'm giving them, when I'm with them, I'm giving them my time. I'm giving them acceptance, for the most part, to be who they are. And I don't know which teacher it was that asked us to think about who we are and not use adjectives that described what we do or anything like that. And everything that most people use to describe who they are, we weren't allowed to use those.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of the root, like who people are to me is their values and their morals and how they go about living their life. Like their end goal at the end of the day should be being a good person. I always tell my daughter, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, don't care if she gets straight A's. I don't care if she ends up making a ton of money. And I'm not going to ever pressure her to give me grandchildren. I want her to be happy, and I want her to be good to other people, and I want her to be able to contribute to society. And that's all I want from humans around me in general. Anyone that I allow in my inner circle and anyone that I want to contribute to their circle, that's all I want. I guess wrap it into acceptance. I'm very willing to, I'm seriously the most forgiving person that I know, and it gets twisted and turned into being a doormat, or, I put up with too much from some people, and I know that from the outside it looks like that, but I have my personal boundaries, and as long as it's not crossing my personal boundaries, I will forgive someone until the day I die. I've heard people say to me, well, I won't talk to her anymore because she did this. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, I've said this so many times, if you won't talk to that person because of that, we probably shouldn't be friends, because I have made tons of mistakes in my life. I have said the wrong thing way more times than I want to count. I mean, if someone is saying they don't want to be someone's friend because they made a mistake, then they're lying to themselves, realistically. Mm-hmm. So I just think what I bring to the table is love and acceptance no matter what. As long as that person is willing to admit that they made a mistake and they are being genuine and truthful with me, I will be friends with them for the rest of my life.
I think from because mental health is kind of a theme that kind of is being woven between our conversation here. Mm-hmm. Folks that kind of hang on to that baggage, right? It's so debilitating to them. So they're holding on to this hate and this vitriol, and I'm not talking to this person because this, as you said, right? So, and then I'm not talking to this one, and I'm not talking to this one. So like, well, right? You must have a short list of people that you can actually talk to. And then whenever you see this person or, that person is brought up, your mind is triggered, and now all these negative thoughts are there. Who wants to live life like that? What a negative space to exist in. So having the ability to forgive, I think is tremendously powerful. And as I say in all the podcasts, the reason why I ask, the questions about current events and then switch into friendship and relationships is I think it's important as we go through this pandemic and whatever's next. And even if we didn't go through that, but this is just an opportunity to really say, look, at the macro level, we're American citizens, at a little bit smaller, we're neighbors, and a little bit smaller, we're a community. We live on the same block, we're family members, we're friends, we're acquaintances, and we have to learn how to interact with each other on a positive level, and then learn how to help each other kind of navigate through life, right? And if we can do that, there's so many other things, like I said, we can't control, pandemics and things like that, but we can control how we treat other people. that we can control. And it would help us to process these things so much easier. And so my hope is, again, by sharing that, someone is listening to you speak and you sharing what's important to you in friendship and how you value friendship and the things that you value and the positiveness of it, and they can adopt some of those things, right? Kind of like you said when we were talking about in the classroom, right? I could tell you something, or I can present information and allow you to make your own informed decision. And it's nice to hear other people talk about that and share.
So important.
Yeah. Still nervous? How you feeling?
No, I feel better. I miss your smile, though. I forgot how cute you are when you smile.
Well, thank you. But see, smiling is important. You know what I mean?
It is really important.
And it's infectious too. I think I would say in class, someone would say, "Oh, I've got to do two pages instead of 1 page, or 4 pages instead of 2. Oh, why do we have to do this? So stupid. Doesn't make any sense." And that kind of goes through the classroom, right? It's infectious. Mm-hmm. So you can spread the negativity, or you can spread positivity, And so if you're smiling and you're laughing and you're like, yeah, this is an opportunity to learn, to investigate this and whatnot, that goes through the room also. So why not smile, right? And then it makes you smile. And then they're smiling. So it's fantastic, right? See, now you're smiling.
Right.
See? It's perfect.
But it's important to find a reason to smile genuinely. And that's what you do, because you can tell when someone's just smiling because they're getting paid to greet you at the door. I mean, It's obvious. So it's important to learn. You have to practice finding reasons to smile. There's always a reason. And one thing I've noticed is that people do not compliment people enough anymore. A genuine compliment, you don't have to give them people can tell when you're giving them fluff. If you find a reason to compliment somebody and tell them the compliment, it makes so much of a difference. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, I don't know if you can see it in the back there. Can you see that bowl that's sitting there?
The white bowl with the stick?
Yeah, so in the bowl that's next to it, that's my affirmation bowl. So I write down something nice and I put it in there. And now my daughter's doing it with me. And I would do that on air sometimes too, and encourage people to do that. So, it's a great way to set your day, right? When you're feeling down on yourself, or you're beating yourself up, or you want to pick me up, you're listening to all the news and the negativity. It's just something that you can go and then pull from at random because you've built it up. And it's just something simple. And maybe you need to pull more than 1 or 2 and just kind of put yourself in that framework of, okay, there's something bad that's going on right now. I've got to work through it and process it. And it's good to have the feelings that you have the anger, have the sadness, but also, kind of keep things in perspective also. So I just like to do things that are encouraging and then show other folks that, I'm also doing it. Again, not telling you to do it, but, this is something that might be helpful and it's just a good tool.
That makes a difference, because if you're not doing it yourself, they're not going to understand it the same. It's not going to resonate and stick. So that makes a huge difference. I have a binder. I don't have little papers. I have a binder, and I use graph paper to write everything down.
Oh, really?
I'm a little type A, so. But it's the same concept.
How often do you look in your binder?
Not enough. I should definitely do it more often. My goal, and so it changes. Here's another thing that I try not to be too hard on myself. If we get into the last couple of questions, I'll explain more. But I refuse to make myself feel bad for not doing something anymore. So if I only look at it once a week, good job, Amy. You looked at it once a week this week. Try doing it more next week. I'm not into any kind of shame anymore. So I most definitely, weirdly, I carry it with me to work, and I haven't ever looked at it at work. The binder also has things, if I start to feel anxiety about something, I have a page I can flip to read through. It's a plan for me. This is what I'm going to do if that happens. I don't look at it, but there's something about having it with me all the time that helps me remember what's in it, and I don't have to pull it out So
Absolutely. Oh, I love
it's a
that.
tool.
Yeah, and I love that you can take it with you, which is great. Like I would have to pack my bowl up, so that's another great idea, right? That comes out when you have conversations, when you talk with people,
Right.
and see now you
Yeah.
have a beautiful smile.
Thanks.
So okay, so tell us something that we may not know about you.
I literally answered all. I don't have any answers to that because I feel like everything that we're talking about is things that nobody that's going to listen to this knows about me. And I'm
Okay,
sort of not, I'm not good at keeping things inside. So all of these things I'm saying, I may regret later, but they're all genuine and real and true and honest. And most people haven't heard any of these things before.
well now that's interesting. Why would you say that you might regret it later?
Because I definitely have confident moments and not so confident moments, and I've never been in a platform like this. So I'm sure that someone is going to have some opinions about it that may come up later, and I may have hurt someone's feelings unintentionally or offended someone, and I would definitely, I mean, that is not my intention. So the reason I preface most of my answers with this is the knowledge, this is what I have right now to give
Mm-hmm.
you, is that I may learn something tomorrow that changes my perspective on something, and I'm not afraid to change my perspective or to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, this is what my ideas are. And if someone comes to me and says, Amy, that is awful, let me share this with you, and I change my feelings, you're right. I shouldn't regret because this is the best I have right now in this
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
But I definitely would feel bad if I was to hurt someone's feelings with what I said today.
Gotcha. I understand. But yeah, I think you're right. It's important. If you are giving your best, that's all anyone can ask. And like you said,
Right.
new information may change how you feel. And
Exactly.
you're willing to
I'm
do that,
open.
which is big.
Hmm.
That's huge. That's huge.
That's me leading by example.
Ah, see, I love it. So let's get into you and physical fitness and
Okay.
things that will help our audience to be healthy during this time. So one big one is what can people do to stay healthy while we're social distancing and we find ourselves in this situation?
Okay. So my number one advice would be if you're just at home and you don't have anything, if you want to work out, if that's what your goal is that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would say YouTube is probably the best resource I can think of that is available to anyone who has internet. I know some people don't have internet, but I mean, there's things on Apple TV, there are things on other platforms, but YouTube I think is the most versatile, and it's the easiest way to access something. So if you have only one kettlebell, you can go online, you can go to YouTube and search workout with one kettlebell, and you'll come up with something. Or if you have no equipment whatsoever, I have really good resources for someone that only works with body weight and they're ripped. So, I mean, you don't have to have any equipment, or you can, I have a garage full of equipment that I use every day. You can, I mean, any level of fitness, you can find something for yourself on YouTube. So, my main thing that I always tell people, and I'm constantly reminding myself, is whether you're social distancing or not, you have to make yourself the priority. And someone told me once, I don't know if someone told me or if I read it somewhere, but there's not this, people say priority and priorities. But the thing is if you end up with 10 or 15 priorities,
Mm-hmm.
you don't actually have a priority anymore. You just have a long list of things that you want to do. So you have to seriously, and I spent most of my life believing that I needed to serve everyone around me, and that's what I did. If something, it was ridiculous. If something was cute to me, I thought I can't have that because I like it. if something was fun, I was thinking, no, this is bad. I need to help someone else have fun. No. You have to make yourself the priority. You have to make the decision. You have to say, look, guys, I'm taking this hour. I'm going to go in the garage. I'm going to look up a YouTube video, and I'm going to make myself the priority for that hour because I need to be healthy. Because you can't take care of anyone else or have a productive life in general if you don't take care of yourself.
Those are facts.
So whether you're social distancing or not, but I think that social distancing has caused everyone to sort of be in the same space, maybe too small of a space for too long, and we've maybe forgotten that we need to do these things for ourselves, but that is very important.
So, and just kind of recapping, definitely use YouTube because there's so many resources out there. And that's something that I did personally, right? As I use YouTube, I have, free weights here in the house, and I ended up purchasing a treadmill so that I can do some cardio and do some weights at the same time. But yeah, take that space out. Open communication is important, like you said, right? Look, I need this hour, and that helps you both physically and mentally. We know that endorphins are released when you work out, right? People generally feel good and happy after they work out. They're tired, but they feel happy, right? You get a lot of that energy out. So there's just so many benefits from getting your exercise in. So I think that's really powerful.
I could talk for hours on this topic because this is like my topic. So there is a lot more to it, and I have tons more ideas on that topic, but that is just I'm trying to shorten it.
Well, how about this? Since you're no longer nervous, will you come back on later and we'll do like just a whole segment just on that?
I would love to.
Okay.
There's a lot that was part of one of my answers, but there's so much that people are either they're taught incorrectly, and it keeps them from becoming healthy adults, that I would love to help change their perspective on that.
I love it. Well, we will definitely do that then, for sure. All right, so question 2 is, so how would you say to get started with the plan? So they can do the YouTube to kind of find the exercises, but what would be your advice to kind of get started with creating an exercise plan or something along those lines? Or what should they do?
Well, and again, that's going to look different to people with different fitness levels, whether or not they have not worked out ever, or they maybe work out once or twice a week, it's going to look different for everybody. But I would say, as far as knowledge goes, there is still a ton of information available on YouTube. There's a ton of information available, books, podcasts, audiobooks. There's so much information out there that if you here's the thing, is there's steps to having a better lifestyle. The first step doesn't even involve changing anything. It involves your thought process on changing something. So if you are feeling really bad about yourself, but you want to get started and you don't know where to start, and you feel like you don't even have the energy to start, everyone has the energy to read a book or listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and you can go to the library has apps that you can download, and you can borrow books for free. So if that is all you have the energy to do is to learn, start there, because I feel like once you learn more about nutrition and you just start exploring the topic, it's going to be impossible for you not to see things differently.
Ooh, awesome.
So that's what I would say is how to really get started from the very beginning.
I think that's a really great answer, because a lot of folks, they'll make New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to get a gym membership. I'm going to go to the gym. And they want to overdo it, right? They just go all out, and then it fizzles out really quick too. As fast as it came in, as fast as it goes, and giving yourself grace is what you're kind of talking about a lot through conversation too, is saying, hey, look, it's okay. You're self-aware that you want and need to do this, and go ahead and get started, start investigating, and don't feel like you got to jump right in. Just start doing some research. That's part of the process, because, it's like measure twice, cut once. The more information you have when you go forward, then you're likely to do the right thing for you first, from the start. So that's really powerful. I think that's really helpful. Great advice. I like that. Um, so with that, how do you keep going through motivation loss? Because that's another reason why New Year's resolutions and, kind of fail, right? You get going, you're going, and 2 weeks, a month, all of a sudden, it's June. You haven't been to the gym in 3 months.
Yeah. So I don't, again, I should have researched my sources more, but I watched a video one time about basically that motivation is, it's crap. Like most of what we think is motivation, it's sort of something that you think exists that you don't have. Mm-hmm. And you think maybe the people that go to the gym on the daily basis, they have this thing that you don't have. And that's not the actual case. There's nothing, you're not missing anything when you wake up, or let's just say you think that you want to start a workout routine and then a week later you still haven't. You still have all the same tools that the person that went to the gym those 5 days has. You're not missing anything. The only thing you're not doing is not doing it. Mm-hmm. So you can't just sit around and think, one of these days I'm going to feel like doing it. Does anyone feel like washing dirty laundry? Does anyone feel like making sure the dishes don't pile up for weeks? No one actually, it's not like this amazing feeling that you get where you feel like, yay, I look cute enough to finally wear yoga pants and go work out in public. It doesn't happen. All it is realistically doing it. It's getting, another thing that I'm sort of stealing from someone else is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's about, for me, it was about creating a habit that was sustainable, that even on the days that I didn't feel like going to the gym, it felt weird not to go. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't training for a marathon and killing myself on the treadmill every day. I was doing something that in the long run, it made me feel good. And I know it takes a certain something the first couple months when you start your fitness journey. It takes extra because you're not used to it. So, but again, it's not because you're missing something. You're not missing motivation. You have to do it. And one of the things that I did when I started is listen to motivational videos on YouTube while I was doing the things I didn't really want to do. Oh. And it perspective for me, it was all perspective. It was all about, the things that you hear, and I could send you links to them, but if you go look motivational videos, there's a couple channels that are very common to pop up, and some of them take bits and pieces from really famous people giving famous speeches, and they will put those key sentences together. And when you listen to them, if you really listen to them, those alone will drive any person that wants better for themselves to get through their workout, or to get through the long drive that they have to do, or whatever it is that you have to do. It's all about perspective. It's all about what we've been taught, that we have this thing called motivation that we don't have. It's just realizing I want better for myself. Mm-hmm. It's realizing that you have all you need to get better for yourself in whatever way you want. You have all the tools. You have to do it. And sometimes getting up at 5 a.m. and going to the cold garage to do squats isn't the most exciting thing to do. But what I do is I do have a playlist on my phone that is, I tend to listen to really happy, upbeat music anyways, but as your journey progresses, you will start to create your playlist that gets you going in the morning. And if I put my headphones in and I listen to that while I'm making my coffee that I do drink, even though you said it's bad for you, if I do that, I will start getting excited. My body, it almost is like a muscle memory thing. My body's like, oh yeah, I know what we're about to do. And my body will get into the motion and it will start to feel, I mean, it's a routine and a rhythm, but that makes it sound boring. It really, it wakes me up and gets me excited to go about my day. And what my day is to me is another opportunity to learn more, to connect with someone, to make someone else's life better. And the beginning of that great day for me is my workout.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, again, the getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is what's going to move you through those times. And honestly, I just like being challenged. If I can make it through another day that I didn't feel like doing something as for a workout. I don't know if you know this. I had a snowboarding accident and I separated my shoulder. I
Mm.
tore the tendons that hold this part of your shoulder together, and this part, there's a bump and everything. It's terrible.
Wow.
So I still did my workout. I don't like to run.
Mm-hmm.
My body doesn't like to run, and I went running, and I learned how to enjoy running
Mm.
in the cold and the rain. I did it. And that to me right there, just, you're the first person I've ever like said that to. I don't brag about it usually, but it feels like I conquered something. I made it through. I made it through quarantine, losing weight. I built muscle. I've now lost that because I had an injury, but I didn't gain weight like most of my friends did.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like I conquered something. And that, the more you conquer those little things, the easier it will feel being uncomfortable and continuing your routine.
You know, you said a lot of powerful things there, and one thing from my own experience is if I'm doing something that I don't want to do, like there's some mornings where, like last night, you know, I fell asleep at midnight. I wanted to watch this show, and I woke up at 3 in the morning, did a little bit of work, laid down for a couple hours, got back up, and then just started my day. So it was like, oh, there's so much for sleeping. And I really didn't feel like working out, right? Because that's usually what I do first thing when I wake up. But now my day is off. And so it's like I'm dragging. And it's like, okay, well, and I'm finding other things to do, right? Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. I'm just I'm making these excuses. And it's like, you know what? Once you get started, you're going. Just get started. Because once you're going, you're there. And once I got on and then I was going, it was great. And then when I finished, I feel so good about myself because I actually did it, right? I didn't say no to it. I didn't continue to make the excuses. You know, my body is sore and it hurts a little bit, but there's also the good sore, you know, so you've got that, the mental, pump up that you get from feeling like, you know what, I made the right decision, right? Because life is a series of decisions, and it's about the choice that you make every time you're faced with that decision. And I made it. And now, if I didn't do anything else in my day, I did that. That's a big deal.
Exactly.
But it makes you want to continue to do more because now I can string together my wins. And so I'm doing a new little training app, you know, to and I'm the type of person that will do, I'll start doing something and I'll beat up on myself because I fell off. It's like, all right, I got to catch up for lost time. I'm going to go harder than, you know, and then you injure yourself and then you can't do anything for a few weeks, or like you said, you work through it. And then it's like, well, so you just set yourself back because, you know, you're beating yourself up. So, you know, I've got a little app on the phone, and it's like a little free app to train you to do like a 5K, then a 10K or whatever. So it's like, so I'm doing that. And it's like I got through the day, and it's like, oh, man, I did it. And I've strung 5 days in a row together. So it's just such a win. So it's like, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing. And so today was a big win when I didn't want to, and my routine was broken, but I still was able to overcome it. So just, you know, it's so powerful.
It is. You didn't just do it. You did it when it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good. That's when you start feeling good about yourself. That's where, right in those moments are where the average people fall away, and the people that are going to succeed excel. Is that moment when you have the choice to you make the hard choice.
Mm-hmm.
You do the hard thing. So, good job.
Well, thank you. And it's such a gift when you phrase it that way, because then you get to look at your own gains and your own wins, right? I mean, it's such a it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That every time you make the right choice, it just keeps building and encouraging yourself to continue to make the right choice. So, and give yourself grace and then go
Because
forward.
it's always important to be your own best cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
That's another, giving yourself, that's something I'm working on, is giving myself, what is the word? What is the word I'm trying to think of? Acceptance. What is it that you look for in other people? You always want someone else.
Approval.
Validation.
Approval
And validation. Mm-hmm. Learning how to give yourself a validation in those moments,
mm-hmm.
and just be just as happy to hear yourself. And it's okay to say, like, good job, Amy. You actually did it.
Yeah.
It feels better when you finally get to the point where you can encourage yourself, and that's good enough. Like, that is all you need.
Mm-hmm. And we have 1,000 things. We're not perfect. We have 1,000 things that we could beat ourselves up on if we want to, and we don't do enough of encouraging ourselves. I absolutely agree with that statement for sure. So as we're kind of moving, goal setting. What would you recommend for folks in terms of setting realistic goals that they can actually achieve?
So I know that you want me to talk about SMART goals.
No, you don't have to talk about SMART goals.
And actually, it was nice because when I was working at the Y, and I was doing health coaching for a little while, and they did teach us how to teach other people to make SMART goals. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of value in that. But on the other side, some people, you know how everyone learns different? Mm-hmm. For some reason, and I was raised with goal setting. That was the baseline for everything. Set goals and you'll achieve them. For some stubborn reason, my body and my brain do not respond well to goals. The SMART goal concept is perfect if you respond well to that. To be totally honest with you, I have helped people make SMART goals, and it has helped them. But for the people that don't respond well, the best way to progress in your fitness journey is to just simply make positive changes, little baby steps that are completely sustainable. Like switching from sugar to stevia, which I'm sure at first was not the best thing. Mm-hmm. It tasted weird. It wasn't as satisfying, but it was sustainable because now you're still doing it. And I actually prefer using stevia, especially, and I actually can drink my hot tea at night without any sugar.
Oh, really?
Because I progressed into that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you try to jump too fast, like if you tried to run that 5K before you're ready, it's not sustainable. And that's when people, they fall. So if someone was to set a goal to run a 5K in 3 months and they didn't make it, I almost feel like it's more detrimental than positive. Mm-hmm. So for me, I guess just making sure that your choices are the best one you can make at that time. So when you're at the grocery store, you're going to have a lot more changes than when you're sitting at your desk at work. When I'm sitting at my desk at work, I have the choice I can go across the street to the store and I can buy grapes, or I can buy chocolate. And like that one, make that hard choice in that moment, make that hard decision. And then if you just continue getting comfortable being uncomfortable in those moments, every step that you make, it will build, and you will start to see a difference. And if you're talking about losing weight, those small changes like that, the nutrition aspect of it is a whole nother conversation, but the grapes will satisfy you the same nutrition, full-wise as the chocolate, but you'll have less goat later. You will start to see a calorie deficit in your life, which will just automatically, you'll start losing weight. You will have better energy, which will then pump you up even better when you do your workout. I mean, just the tiniest changes. Grapes versus chocolate. Chocolate can cause your blood sugar to crash later, and you may not be as productive at work, and you may, that little work stepping stone, you may get a promotion after so many weeks or months of having more energy in the afternoon because you didn't eat that sugary snack. You know what I mean? Like they build on top of each other. After a while, you will start seeing really good progress in your life in general. It's honestly just I guess make goals that are sustainable is my best advice if you want to use the word goal, because like I said, you try to bite off more than you can chew, you're going to fall, you're going to feel bad about yourself, and it's just going to be detrimental. So tiny little switches. When you're at the store, choose a cereal that if you really have this thing where you have to have cereal in the morning, choose like a granola. If you don't like granola, mix half and half for a while. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to make those tiny steps towards something healthier, and keep making the hard choices, and you will in the end feel better about yourself.
So I'll give you an example of something that I did that supports what you were saying. I've been a big coffee drinker. I still drink coffee, and I can drink coffee at 3 a.m. and go right to bed and be asleep in 20 minutes, right? Just what it is. Because I drink too much coffee. But I used to be a sugar and a creamer person, and then I was able to cut out the sugar and just do cream, right? But I like my coffee, very light. I don't like it black. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So you just pour the creamer to taste, and it's like a flavored, creamer. And then I look on the side, and it's like, well, it's 30 calories per tablespoon. And it's like, maybe I should measure this thing out. And it's like, holy crap, it's 4 tablespoons, Like, that's 120 calories in my cup of coffee, and I've had 10 cups today. So I've had 1,200. I've had a double Whopper in coffee. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, all right, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to do half the creamer. So I did half. And then I did, 1 tablespoon. And then I got to the point where I just stopped drinking coffee for a few months. Because I usually do that every year. I'll grow my hair out for like 3 months out of the year. Yeah. I'll stop drinking coffee like twice a year for a few months. And then I'll start again, And then I'll supplement it with tea. So now I'm not always, the hot drink is comforting. So I don't always choose coffee. And then I choose tea, and then there's stevia, and then I don't have the calories and all that good stuff. So it's like, so those are kind of the goal setting. I don't have a SMART goal for it, but I think it supports exactly what you're saying. And then I'm a very logical person. So then when I start doing the math on it, it's like, oh man, you're talking about calorie deficit, right? It's like, well, that's a big way to get a calorie deficit right there. Cut the creamer out, buddy.
Yes. So MyFitnessPal, have you heard of that app?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
So I started using that, and that was sort of my moment. Like you were just talking about realizing how much you were actually taking in, and it had more to do with the things that I had been taught. You learn, like, in general, granola bars are healthy, right? Like, eat a granola bar instead of, but let me tell you, when you start entering it into the MyFitnessPal, and it starts telling you, well, actually, you just ate, like, half your sugar intake for the day in one granola bar, you start to really get a different perspective on what is actually good for you and what actually hides a ton of sodium and a plethora of things that you actually don't need to eat. And it just brings it to your attention and slaps you in the face with it.
So what's disgusting? I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. So I'm watching the YouTube video, right? And they say that KFC now has meat that's made by a 3D printer. And they can do it from a cell, an animal cell from a chicken, and create meat from a 3D printer. I mean, it's like so disgusting. I very rarely eat fast food, but it's like, well, see, that's the reason. That's disgusting. That's scary.
Terrible. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. That's worse than the pink goo from McDonald's chicken McNuggets. Yeah. It
definitely YouTube it sometime before we talk again. You don't want to see it?
I don't think that's true.
They don't show it.
I'm not prepared for.
Oh man, that's
That's
creepy.
awful.
That's
That's
creepy.
worse than creepy. It's marketing something, telling people it's food, but it's not food. I don't even know how that's legal. I mean, if you look at most of the things in our grocery store, I don't know
Oh,
why they're legal for us
right,
to eat. So
right.
that's a whole other topic. Like I said, the nutrition,
Well,
yeah,
and and I very rarely eat meat now. So just because of, just kind of those horror stories, so it's just
sure,
like,
I understand that.
it's kind of
Yeah,
scary,
let's not let's
and
not go there.
3D printer meat, like, that's
That's
dystopia for
terrible.
sure. All right,
I'm
so
not going to be able to forget that. That's going to be your legacy in my brain until we talk again. Is going to be about 3D printed meat. That is terrible.
did you already answer how you got into the industry? You talked about always being athletic, and what made you
Yeah.
kind of say, you know what, I'm going to go and get certified, and I want to help others.
I mean, that was it. I wanted to help others, and I started seeing how people. I would have when I was health coaching, I would have people come in and say, usually like an older man that would say, like, they would pat their big belly and they'd say, "Can you show me how to work out my abs because I need to get rid of this belly?" And it's like, I don't know if you know this or not, but you cannot do enough ab exercises to get rid of a beer belly or whatever kind of belly you want to call that. That's not how it works at all. And people are so undereducated about health in general. And I had like family member tell me, "Well, it's too bad you can't do um I just lost the word, physical therapy."
Mm.
But that's literally the reason I want to do what I do is to help people avoid the injuries. And I mean, here's an example of something that I learned. Let me preface this by saying that I started working at the Y and I just annoyed all of my coworkers and everyone that I could by asking them 1,000 questions. That is how I get my knowledge. I ask people that have experienced life more than me and I ask for their knowledge. So what I learned at one point from my personal training manual, I believe, for example, did you know that impact training is important? Say running is something that you hit the ground, it gives you an impact, right? There's different types and different levels. You don't only, that's not the only way to get impact, but by doing that motion, your body gets triggered to pull calcium into your bones to help keep your bones strong.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
So impact is actually very important to keep you from, I mean, it helps you stay away from getting osteoporosis when you're older because it's triggering your bones to become stronger. No one ever told me anything even remotely close to that growing
Yeah,
up.
no.
So, I mean, it's things like that that people have no idea about. I I dislike our system where we treat things. I wrote this down somewhere too. We don't wait until the car is dead on the side of the road to buy new tires, to
Hmm.
change the oil. So why do we do that to ourselves? Americans, I don't know. I only live in America, so I don't know if it's true about other countries, but we do not maintain our bodies starting as children because our children are not taught to maintain their bodies, to maintain their health. And that's what we want to do. We want to start when we're healthy and maintain that so that we can live not, I don't like to say live a long life because I don't particularly want to watch all of my family members pass away before I die. That's just not my goal, longevity necessarily.
Hmm.
But I want my time that I have left to be amazing. I want to continue learning. I'm still going to go snowboarding again, even though I really am returned. So I want to have that ability. I want to be able to say, because I still want to learn how to surf. I've never had the chance to do that. I want to go cliff diving. I want to travel. There's a lot I still want to explore, and I want to be able to do that without huffing and puffing, without worrying about going to chemotherapy because you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
want to be the best I can. So even if I die in a couple of years, I want to make sure that those last couple of years are the healthiest I can possibly be. And I want to help other people learn the knowledge so that they can also live their best life, as cliche as that phrase now is.
No, I think that's awesome, and being able to, articulate it in a way where you like you say, okay, so you're saying, oh, it's cliche, quality of life, but when you talk about it, like, yes, I want to be able to do all these things on my bucket list and be able to enjoy it while I'm there, not say, well, I did it, but man, it about killed me to do it,
Right.
or I can't do this, or I can't fit on this because I'm too large to take advantage of this activity that I really thought was fun, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, yeah, however much time you have left, you do want to enjoy it, and you don't want to live a life of where you're in pain and restricted. So you think that you're making sacrifices by not eating what you want to eat, but as you learn how to eat differently, your taste buds do change, and there's actually more flavor in the healthier foods if you give it a chance. You were talking about the grapes and the chocolate.
Unknown caller.
And I was going to say how much I'm sorry, that's so loud. How much the grapes are so much sweeter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's
and
true.
You just have to get to that point. If you'll hold just 1 second, let me take this really quick.
Okay.
Hey, Christina, how are you? I am. Could you give me like 7 minutes? Nope, just 7 would be just perfect. All right, bye. Sorry about that. I have
That's okay.
So I will let the secret out on live. So there is an agency here who is thinking about maybe contracting with us to help people get vaccinated. And so, it's about, people that are in rural areas, I think, and just out of the way where they can't use like paratransit or access and whatnot. And so we got that email earlier, and I was like, well, I've got a board meeting. I've got maybe 45 minutes in between that and then my podcast. Usually it goes about 90 minutes to 2 hours. I should be done about 8:30. And she's super prompt. So I was like, oh, can you give me like 7 minutes? Like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll give you as much time as you want.
I know we've talked for a long time.
Didn't seem like it, huh?
No.
And just think you started off so nervous, and it was great.
I know. My hives are gone now.
Well, I am serious about if you are willing to come back and have these discussions, I think it would be fantastic and beneficial to share this information out. And I know you're a very researched person. And I think the information that you have to share on so many different things, like I came up with the questions. I won't read what your response was, but you were super excited to see the response to the questions, but like you said, I mean, those could be a series of podcasts just for each question that I asked you. And I do think it's important, and people don't know where to start. And even with like YouTubing, right, it can still seem very overwhelming. So if they have a face that they can kind of trust that's saying you can do it, and try this or try that and give yourself grace and, just get going and, that's okay.
My secret, that's what should have been on my list of things that people don't know about me. If I could do anything in the world, I would love to be a motivational speaker someday, but I honestly have the worst stage fright ever.
Really?
I honestly get hives just thinking about being on a podcast with someone I know. So the thought, yes. But I would love to motivate people. That's literally all I ever want to do is motivate people to be healthier and be kind to themselves. So if you would let me come back, I would love to.
Oh, that would be awesome. Well, I'll tell you a secret, and I don't know if I ever told students this, but before I started teaching, if I got up in front of a group of people, my hair would itch really bad, like it would burn. So, and it was really uncomfortable. No, I'm serious. It was horrible, and that was how I was very terrified to do that. And so I have no idea how I ended up teaching, because it's like I cannot get in front of people and speak because my hair literally feels like it's on fire. So I don't know if it was like.
Do you remember how many times I had to go to the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
when we had to do our presentation. I did not go first, and I'm pretty sure I had to go to the bathroom about 4 times before it was my turn, and that's not usual for me. That was insane.
But it's just like you said, you are about, making yourself uncomfortable, and this was something that was uncomfortable, but you still were like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and then you overcome that, and it's like, yeah, now I'll come back, and,
Yeah.
that is success in action, right? So we can talk about it, but then you can actually see the success happening in real time, right? And then other people can do that and build on it where they need to in their life. So
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. So I got to say, I really appreciate you. You have just taken part in a wonderful interview on the Conduit. I am Marwan Cameron. My guest today is Amy Ray. As you can hear, she is going to be back with us to talk about health and wellness. I think it's really important. So we will work behind the scenes and bring those to you. I think I will be back on live tonight because I want to talk about education. There's some things that are really frustrating me about the educational system and what's happening, especially with our Black boys in the community. But, it all kind of goes with all kids that are suffering during COVID during this time. But just the story that I heard in the news was just really frustrating. We know that this thing is happening throughout the country, and we need to be accountable for our children. And so we can blame, outside factors and everything else, but it is time that we are accountable to our kids. And that is a child when you hear that story. And so although they are a senior in high school, that person is a kid, and they've been put in a position to where they're not getting a chance to start off on good footing. So check that out tonight. Like I said, I want to bring information to you that's not typically out there. I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. I so very much appreciate you. Again, it is Friday, March 5th, 2021. I hope you have a safe weekend. Hopefully that it is productive and fruitful. You give yourself grace, work through whatever you need to work through, and we will see you next time. So until then, bye-bye. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Message me some questions and all that stuff, okay?
I will, and we'll probably end up talking on the phone too. Sound good?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Have a good weekend. Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Great interview. Great interview. Uno, dos.